My mute button consists of two images, one for when the sound is muted and one for when it's not. And in this video I'm going to draw both of those images. If you already have your own images you can skip this, but you might find some tips along, so keep watching if you feel like it. As usual, I'm going to start with a sketch that I've drawn on paper and just going to copy in here, and whoa, that is large. So let's just zoom out and resize it a bit. And I don't want to stretch it, so I keep my shift key pressed, and that's make sure I keep the aspect ratio, and just put it up here next to the artboard and zoom to 100%. There it is. So these are my two buttons. This one is when the sound is unmuted with a speaker sound coming out of it, and this is when the sound is muted, the same speaker with a cross next to it. So rather than drawing on top of these sketches here, I want to create a completely new drawing with perfect shapes, not hand-drawn stuff like this, but perfect circles. And to help me a bit, I'm going to need a grid. So you should always have a grid when you do this stuff here, and it will help you a lot when you go into spreadsheets later. And first make sure that your units are pixels. Everything else will just mess up your units. And then you could have your grid, and usually you'll probably have something like a grid line, a big fat line every 100 pixels, and then divide it into 10 pixels, so you have small grids for every 10 pixels. But I personally like having 128 and 16, and I don't know why. It might just be a remnant from my 8-bit days where everything had to be divisible by 8, but I do feel that I make nicer looking images using these sizes. It doesn't really matter, since everything in SVG is scalable, so you can use any kind of grid you want, just as long as you have one and keep it consistent. So once you have your grid, you should also be able to see it. So go to your view and show your grid. There's also, I can hardly see it, there's also an option to snap to grid, but I don't want that. But I do want these smart guides that I can turn on with Control U or Command U on Mac. So keep the smart guides on, and I'll show you why in just a moment. So now I have my grid, and I can see I have 128 pixels from here to here. And I think that my button should be fairly around this size here, 128 times 64. That will be the size of my button. So I'll just resize this a bit more so it becomes a bit smaller. Remember to keep shift pressed. So this is about the size that I want. Let's zoom in a bit more. Yeah, that's perfect. Good. In addition to grid lines, you maybe also want some rulers, and you can turn them on with if you go here to view, and where are they? Here on the rulers, you can show rulers, also Control R as in rulers, and here you can see them, and you can take and drag a ruler from the top here and say, okay, I want to go there. And see, since I have smart guides on, it snaps to the path. I actually want it to be at 64 pixels, so I'm just going to move it up. By the way, if you don't have these controls up here, you can turn them on with Control. And we will use those a lot. So I'm going to have one at 64, and I'm going to have another one halfway in between. That'll be around here at 32 pixels. So this is my midpoint. So now I'm going to move this just a bit down here, just there. I'm not going to need it. And I'm going to draw this outer shape. And that is kind of comprised of two circles that touch each other and melt it together. So let's select my ellipse. And then I'm going to create a circle. And remember, you can press Shift to keep it a circle rather than an ellipse. And if you also press Alt, then it draws the circle with the center around where you clicked, rather than moving the center as you move the mouse. So I want a circle of 64 pixels. And that got a bit too high, I can see. So I'm just going to move it, and this is where the smart guides come in. You can see this purple intersect. That means now, right there, I'm on the line. Now I'm outside the line, but now it snaps to the center. And I'm just going to move it a bit 2 pixels. Yeah. And then the other circle, I'm going to copy, press Alt, and have your selection tool, and then just move this. And if you hold Shift in, it moves in straight lines, or 45 degrees if you want to. And then we can move it, say, like this. Yes. These two circles, they are perfect. So let's combine them with a rectangle. And again, we are on the path here. And I should be able to... Yeah, I think so. There we are connected. I think that's connected. Yes, this is the shape I want. Of course, I don't want the strokes, so let's get rid of those. No strokes. And the fill should be a greenish bit brighter than that. I'm actually going to go here and show my options. And then I can take what's good color. That one, and then a bit darker. Not that much. That. I wanted a pale green. Yeah, I think that's fine. 5285. Yeah. So I don't need these 3 different shapes. I should combine them into one. But before doing that, I just want to create the button here for the speaker, because that should be a circle, same position as this, but a bit smaller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy, Control C, and then I'm going to paste, but I'm going to paste in place, Control Shift V, and that pastes in exactly the same position as the other one. So it's there. You can't see it because it's just on top of the other circle. But if we change the color of it to a nice grayish one, I shouldn't have selected everything, just the circle, the one on top. Just this circle here. Or is it that one there? No, it's that one. Make it gray. And make sure it's on top of everything. And then I want to make it just a bit smaller. So if you have a wide enough screen, you would have transform settings up here. But if not, you have to press this button and open the transform panel. And here we can see we want to have this. We want to transform around the center of the circle. So we just press this one, then we have the center. And it tells us where we are in pixels. Our coordinates for the circle, and it tells us how tall and wide it is. And we keep the proportions, but let's just make it smaller so it's only 60 pixels. And that should also be 60, right? Yeah. Yes, that is exactly how it should look, and it is positioned perfectly. Good, so I'll just turn it off. And then I will select my 3 other shapes here and combine them with the shape builder tool into one shape. And I can turn this on again. I have other shapes lying around, I can see. Interesting. So now I have my 1 speaker button. Perfect. Now I just need to draw the speaker and some sound waves. The speaker should look kind of like this, and some sound waves going out of it. So I'm going to zoom in a bit here, and I'm going to create a new layer for my speaker, because I'm going to reuse it, and I'm just going to lock everything else so I don't destroy anything. And how should I make this speaker here? Let me see. First I need a color for it. A darker gray. Make sure it's completely gray. And here. And it's going to be a box, a rectangle. Again, I start from here. If I press Alt, then I move it up. And if I press Shift, I make it a circle. I don't want that. Where? This is the bottom part of the speaker. It's a bit too rounded. I can make it less. Same. Yeah, like that. And then I need the triangle, the speaker itself. I'm going to do a polygon. Click and make a 3-sided polygon here and rotate it like that. And it should be a bit taller. Even taller maybe. And this, it shouldn't go as far out here, so I'm going to do the other selection tool. Grab the anchor and make sure I'm still that I don't move out from the center line, but just keep it here. Oh, a bit more. Like this. Yeah, let's zoom out. Yeah, that looks good. This is my speaker. Oh, there should be this short little membrane here on top of it. So I'm going to have my ellipse and draw a circle. That would be, yeah, that looks like a nice, but it shouldn't go into the speaker. There should be a short distance. So to make sure I get this distance, I'm simply going to clip a part of that. So I'm just going to select a random color that I don't really use and draw. Yeah, that is what I'm going to remove from this top part of the speaker. So let's select both of them. Keep Shift pressed so to select more elements, more of them, and then our shape builder. And rather than combining, I want to what's called remove. So I press Alt and say remove that part and remove that part. And now I have my perfect speaker. Excellent. I'm going to lock that layer and create a new layer for my sound waves. The sound waves are these curvy lines here. This one that are called arcs. And in Illustrator there's a line tool for arcs. If you go here to our line tool and below that there's an arc tool. And then we have to draw the perfect arc. And if we just start drawing somewhere, you can see that it's very hard to hit the right size. Kind of, yeah, but not really. But I found that if you go here to the top of the circle and then draw something that goes here and you have your quarter circle, then you have a perfect arc. It's not in the correct place and it's not rotated correctly. But let's take the rotate tool and then rotate this one. And if you keep shift pressed, you're sure to hit an exact 135 degrees. And let's move it down here. Make sure it hits the line. Something a bit like this. Maybe not quite, but a bit. It's a bit too tall and a bit too skinny. We could increase the stroke size here. 2, 3. That looks more like it. And then the ends of the stroke, we don't want it to be like cut off there. We want them to be nice and rounded. So we go here, round caps. There we have it. And then we're just going to copy that. So press Alt and drag it to the side. There's the next one. And drag it to the side. And there's the third one. And they are of course too large. So let's take this one and once again the selection tool. Resize it, and if you make sure to see, you don't want it to be like that. So you keep shift pressed, so you keep in only one direction, and if you press Alt in, then it resizes around the center. So you have something like that. And you just have to release shift and Alt when you grab it again. And press them again, and yeah, that looks like it. Move it a bit, and take this one, and shift and Alt. You know what? I think the speaker is too large. It's far too large. It takes off more than half the button. I'm going to resize it. This part here, yeah, it should be much smaller. Let's move it, let's scale that one as well. Press Alt to keep it around the center, Shift to only resize in one direction. And this box is also too large. Once again, press Alt to resize around the center. Yes. This one should also have a bit rounded corners. I can drag here and something like that. Yes, that looks much nicer. And then move this. Remember to keep shift pressed. And here, and by the way, you can make sure that these 3 lines, this one should be a bit shorter. If you mark all of them, this one should maybe be a bit closer, like that. If you mark all of them, and then all 3, yes, can I, come on. And then we have our distribute center, horizontal distribute center. This one is still a bit too large. And again distribute them, because now they changed their size. So there we have it. This is too big. Let's just resize that as well. And oops. Alt and Shift. And then move it. Oops. Yeah, see, it's a bit too far now. It's a bit too close, and there we go. Yes, I think that makes sense. This is my completed unmuted button. Perfect. And now let's go and create the mute button. But before creating the mute button, let's just finish the artboard for this unmute button. So let's go here to artboard and make sure that the artboard isn't any wider than our 128 pixels and also any taller than our 64 pixels. And now it got removed completely because of course I wanted to keep be start up here and not in the middle, so resize around the top. And now I can set it to 128 pixels wide and 64 pixels tall. Perfect. And then that is easy to make a copy. I simply press Alt and select the entire artboard and copy it here. Any hidden or locked will not be moved. That wasn't as lucky, so I need to unlock. Yeah, and then try again. Any hidden or locked will not be moved. That's okay, I think. I don't know what is hidden. So I don't want sound waves here. But let's start with the background. The color should be red instead of green. And a very good way of doing this is still have HSB, keep S and B the same, but change H to the red here. Yes, perfect, because now I have the same saturation and brightness, but a different color. And then of course I want to move the button and the speaker. So I'm just going to select everything and then unselect this and keep shift pressed when I move it. I can't. Okay. First, let's make sure that our guides are locked. And then I should be able to move this. Keep shift pressed. And it helps me move it to there. Yeah, perfect. That's where the exact position where it should be. And now I want to get rid of these sound waves. And just have small X's. So I'm going to grab a line tool and find a nice position somewhere around here. And if I press shift, I will automatically get a 45 degree. There you go. And then I copy and paste in place with Command Shift V and use the rotate tool and keep shift so it's 45 degrees. There we have it. A perfect X. So these are my two buttons that I can now save and use. Once I have named the artboards a bit better, say unmuted and muted. Maybe I should even call them button, unmuted and button. So now I'm ready to put this into the HTML.